Racial bias in policing remains one of the most divisive issues in America. Some argue the problem is rooted in a few bad apples, while others believe it reflects deeper institutional practices, historical inequities, and incentives that shape policing. Tonight's episode, we're going to talk about that, so stay tuned.
Are you ready for some controversy? Yeah. Are you ready for some fun? Yeah. Are you ready for some laughs? Yeah. Let's get unfiltered with Psycho 4081.
Welcome, you guys, to another episode of Unfiltered with Psycho 4081. I'm your host, and tonight's episode, we're going to talk about basically police bias and if we can ever eliminate racial bias in law enforcement. So you heard the opening statement, and it basically comes down to this. Can departments truly reform themselves? Is bias inevitable because police officers are human? Or can training, accountability, and community partnerships fundamentally change the culture of law enforcement? So this episode here is going to explore uncomfortable questions without any easy answers. So thank you guys for coming out. How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. And yourself?
Very good. Very good. This is a special episode for me. And in all actuality, this could be a very long, multi-episode conversation because there's so many things to talk about and to consider. But I'm going to kick it off with this one for you guys. Do you think racial bias ever can be completely eliminated from policing? And let me preface this by asking, do you think there's a racial bias in policing? Let me start that off. Paul?
I think, well, to answer your last question first, I think there is racial bias in policing. And can it be eliminated? Yeah, but it's going to take a lot. It's like not just gutting, but tearing down the infrastructure as well.
Okay. What do you say?
Okay. First, let me preface everything I say by saying that I have family members who are law enforcement, so I like to put that out there before I say what I say. Number one, yes, there is racial bias in policing, law enforcement, and number two, I don't think that it will ever be eliminated in this country because of the foundation it was actually built on. And I'll go into that later.
Okay. I see Dimitri jumped on here. Dimitri, we're asking, do you think there's racial bias in policing? And do you think it'll ever be eliminated from policing?
I think it's racial bias in policing, and I don't think it'll ever be eliminated from policing because of the stuff still going on today. When I say racial bias, I'm talking about, and it goes both ways. It goes black against black cops going against, white criminals or whatever. But I'm talking more from the white criminals to the black, pulling over, the whole George Floyd's to that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I'm going to partly agree with all of you on that. More so, okay, I do agree with Paul in this part. Will racial bias ever be eliminated from police? Absolutely not. Now, and I'm going to say this because I've worked in policing for 28 years. I have friends, coworkers, family that are also or were in policing. So here's the thing. Reason why I say no, because every profession out there involves human judgment. And then human judgment can be influenced by conscious and unconscious biases, right? When they say implicit biases. So really the debate would be whether those institutions, whether it be policing or any form of government, institution, can actually reduce the biases, just enough to produce, I guess, consistent and fair outcomes. So just as society is going to have racial bias, so will the police department, because the police department is made up of elements of society. We're just a microcosm of society. So I don't think it'll ever be completely eliminated unless you replace the human element and replace, policing with robots, right? So I don't think that's possible, and it's unfortunate, but that's just how it is.
Well, Brian, I was answering. I guess I was answering. Is it possible to be erased, and is there racial bias? That's what I was answering, and the reason why I said yes about gutting the system and tearing down the infrastructure, meaning if we get back to, there's always going to be bias. Because people are going to think what they want to think, no matter which department or which part of the city they're in. Now you can have an Irish section of the city with all Irish cops. In that section of the city, there's not going to be, in my opinion, there shouldn't be racial bias because you're manning your own group of people. So you don't have anybody to say, oh, there's those black guys again, or there's those white guys, that's a white crime or something like that. And which will make it a lot, in my opinion, a lot more easy to govern those areas when you have the same race governing that race and they get to know each other. You're going to have some good apples, some bad apples. And just like everybody else up here, I have family members and friends, real good friends, who are officers, firefighters, whatever, detectives. But if you have black people, I use Harlem, patrolling Harlem, walking the beat like they used to do back in the day, they know who these criminals are. They're friendly with these kids. The kids accept them. There's no snitching thing when it comes to the kids and keeping them safe. They know the guys they can go to get their information from. So that kind of eliminates the biasness right there.
I see your point, and that does make sense. That basically, if you had people policing their own, it would be like that. However, I just had a conversation earlier today in regards to, and this happened to be a black guy, and I hate to say it, but this is unfiltered. We got some Sambos in policing. I'm gonna just tell you straight up, right?
100%.
Right. So you're gonna have, even in that situation, you're gonna have those, let's say, black officers, even white officers, that look down on other people who we would consider to be white, that they may not consider to be equal to them based on their ethnicity. So I'm certain 100%, only because I've seen it, that, we had a guy, and I ain't gonna tell you his name, and actually I forgot his name, but we had a guy that worked in my department, and people used to say, oh, he's a black guy. He said, oh my God, you got a black guy. He hates black people, and they would tell me all types of incidents that would happen. I don't know if I think he ended up getting fired from the job eventually, but even the white folks saying that he hate black people, So I think in this particular profession, I think that still you'll see that here and there, but across policing, from East Coast, West Coast, North, South, you're going to always have that regardless. Even if it comes to, let's say, in your instance, what you brought up, you might have a black person patrolling a black neighborhood, right? But what about when the Chicanos come in, or the white folks come driving through, come working through? So you're still going to have that mix. Same thing with the white folks. If you have white folks policing all the white areas, let a black motorist come through and, get into some type of trouble, or get into, let's say, car breaks down or speeds through their neighborhood or through their jurisdiction, And we've heard those stories, especially down in certain places. I could tell you already, South Carolina, Virginia, Florida,
Mm,
Mississippi,
mm,
Alabama. We've heard the stories. Hey, don't be driving in unknown areas after dark, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I think
especially in Mississippi.
yeah, yeah, Mississippi. Now you know
I,
what? I'm gonna throw in New Jersey too. To be honest, I mean, because New Jersey's known for
look,
for a northern state to be, you
Yeah, the
know,
western part of Jersey.
yeah, they had their fair more than their fair share of racism. So yeah, I
I used to,
go ahead.
I used to ride through Mississippi scared as hell at night. But to go back to what you were
Rosewood,
saying, and
Rosewood.
Mark was saying is that, and this, and that's why I say I preface everything I'm saying, because law enforcement is a white man construct. Okay, let's call it what it is from the beginning. Okay, law enforcement was essentially developed to police black people, to govern black people, to keep us in line,
Wait a
to
minute. Let me clarify that a little bit. And I know where you're going.
yes.
I know where you're going. So it's not law enforcement itself wasn't because that goes back to the 1400s, 1300s. Matter of fact, it goes back to the Roman days.
But what I'm saying, I'm talking about specifically, I, I, I'm talking about specifically in this particular country,
Even here,
law enforcement,
wait a minute,
the
even
law
here,
enforcement.
even
Yeah,
here,
well, law enforcement has its purpose. I get it.
right?
Law enforcement had, even back in past civilizations, they had a way of governing the people.
So what you're
But
saying,
in this particular country, yes.
what
Go
you're
ahead. Go
what you're
ahead.
alluding to really is not so much law enforcement, because that even when the English settlers came over here, they had the sheriff type,
Yeah.
whatever. You're talking
Yeah.
about the way it's done, the how it's implemented, the slave patrols,
Yeah.
the way
That
how we
how it
patrol.
morphed.
Yes.
Yes, how
Okay.
it
Yeah.
morphed to a centralized a way of rules and regulations, to then now it became a systematic way of policing a specific type of people. It became a way to keep a certain particular specific type of people uh, uh, in basically in legalized slavery, if you let's call it what it is, because incarceration is legalized slavery. When the 13th Amendment came, when the 13th Amendment came and and freed the slaves, then there was law enforcement that said, well, if you're not, they can enforce different things and they can incarcerate you for different things. It was just a way of them saying, you know what? Yeah, on paper you guys are free, but you know what? We have some workarounds here.
Absolutely.
So that's what I say. That's what I think.
Absolutely. And there's no really debate about that, because it's well documented. Well documented. So, okay, now for you guys, some people argue that discriminatory outcomes stem from individual officers making poor decisions. Others contend that police, the policies, deployment strategies, incentives, and historical patterns, which you alluded to, can produce unequal outcomes even without being, having overtly racist intent. So, my question is racial bias primarily an individual problem or an institutional problem? I see Paul's face. Go ahead.
It's an institutional problem.
Yep.
It's I, listen, and that's why I say when I make these comments, I preface it by saying I have family in law enforcement. Law enforcement is a safe haven for racists and hatred. They hide behind the shield. The organization is an institutional problem.
Anybody?
And you know more than anything.
I agree with him because
Okay.
I always, and I've taken a different stance since my son became an officer. I kind of side more with I see it from a different view, to be honest with you. Not just me looking at someone with the outfit on, with the uniform on.
Right.
But I've always looked at it as the job is to protect and serve, not enforce. Now they're enforcing the law instead of protecting and serving. I understand you lock up the bad guys, but there's a difference between locking up the bad guys doing your job and enforcing the law.
Okay. So with the enforcing of the law, I think that is actually their primary responsibility. It's called law enforcement. And if anything, that's actually what's needed. And I could tell you, let me put it on a basic level. Just today, you see somebody doing some dumb shit out there, right? Whether it be flying through your neighborhood, doing crazy stuff, annoying stuff. We mentioned it in the past, right? Who's going to curb that behavior? It's a nasty job, law enforcement. Is that protecting and serving? Absolutely, because they're protecting the tranquility, the peace of the community. Also, to me personally, a lot of people don't get served enough. That's just me, right? But I'm gonna say,
can you repeat that? You went out. A lot of people don't get served enough. What?
They don't get served. They don't get served enough. They don't get served enough justice.
Okay,
right?
Gotcha.
But I'm gonna agree with what Paul said. It is institutionalized, and for these reasons, the policies are set up. And I'm not saying all, but enough, right? The policies are set up to target certain people. And all you have to do is go back to that stop and frisk in New York City with, I don't know who was in charge, Rudy Giuliani. I'm not sure who was in charge back then.
It was Rudy Giuliani.
Okay, it was it. So they specifically, and this was said by some of the Latino officers, as a matter of fact, had said they were told to target certain groups of individuals. So to me, that kind of, solidifies that. Deployment strategy, that's the deployment strategy. When you have a community that sets up, and I know it's all science, and it's all based on this number of calls you have and the crimes reported, you're going to move your resources where it's most needed. I already know that. However, how they implement those things. Zero tolerance. We're going to go over there, and this what happened years ago in Baltimore City. Zero tolerance. We're going to lock up everybody who is caught loitering. We're going to lock up everybody who's walking out of a store with an open container. I understand why they do that.
But it was only being done in certain neighborhoods.
Bingo. And that's where the problem comes in. Now, I'm also going to say that it's an individual officer thing, because you can have those same policies, those same strategies or whatever, but officers do have the discretion for the most part in how they handle certain things. They have discretion on how, what they do and who they pull over and all that type of stuff. And I know I'm gonna give you a certain incident that happened, right? I remember we had a call where it was at a hotel, and a woman called, said, she was threatened with a gun, blah, 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 whatever. The people left, the guys left, headed on down towards Baltimore City, right? We get there, we pull them over. Actually, I was backing up somebody from another precinct and got them out the car. I'm not even sure. I don't even remember if they was in a car. No, matter of fact, they wasn't in the car. But we ended up getting them out, and they had them sitting on the curb and all this other type stuff. And it was absolutely freezing outside. So we found out that there was no gun. The girl got mad because they didn't do whatever she wanted to do. And they basically abandoned her at the hotel. So she calls the police and mentions gun and gets them all jammed up. But what I'm getting at is, once you find out that they were not criminal elements, they weren't suspects of anything, automatically your behavior towards these individuals, and I can't remember how many it was, I think it might have been 4, should have automatically changed. It should have accompanied an apology, right? Sorry, sir, for your inconvenience and your, whatever, and a statement of understanding. But they didn't. Matter of fact, they asked for a ride to the city or whatever, and they said something smart to him and said, "Oh, it's right down the street, blah 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 blah, whatever." Right? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why are they treating them like that? Is uncalled for. And obviously it was all white officers, and these was all black, quote unquote, suspects. So, I know it happens. So that's not the whole department. It's not something that they planned or they strategized and says, do this, this, and that. Those are individual choices, right? And I tell people sometimes that, you can get the same officer from the same department, or 2 different officers from the same department, and going to the same type of call, same type of person, right? But already we know we have implicit biases. Already, that's just how society is. So the way they handle that particular call, or how they talk to somebody, even though they're not supposed to talk to them a certain way, makes a difference. And I think you'll always see that, And
I think that speaking to them is nicely or however, all of that is out the window.
Exactly.
I mean, they talk to them how they want to.
Yeah, exactly. For some people.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
I think because you said it earlier, you're dealing with the human element, right? So you're going to have an implicit bias because you have people inside law enforcement that don't believe specific group of people deserve an apology, deserve respect, and don't have value. So when you have people in this institution of protect and serve and law enforcement who think that way, of course their actions are going to come out, because that's who they are. They're not. And so what happens is this. And once again, I'm going back and I separate white law enforcement from black law enforcement. I just do. And I know you said that there's some samples. There are, but from my point of view, black people who enter law enforcement do it from a different perspective. They do it to protect their communities from being damaged from just lawlessness. Okay. When I see white law enforcement, and I'm not saying all of them, I'm saying institutional wise, they do it because that's their cloak of secrecy to continue to perform the racist actions that they've always carried on, that their family has carried on, that's been taught to them. So the being under the law enforcement shield, protection and fraternity gives them greater access, resources, and they believe they believe they're above the law, and they can enforce any type of measure on a specific type of people.
I agree 100%. Now I'm gonna tell you what's so funny though, that we do have like some of the white officers out there that actually go to work. They want to make a difference. They do their best. Literally they're ideal officers, right? And sometimes, depends on what's going on in society, whatever makes the news, man, they get it. Everything they do, or anything that they say, can be misinterpreted or misconstrued or whatever into a racist act, and they get called a racist for just doing their job. So those are the people that get wrapped up in that, and I feel bad for it. But we know it's always because in this particular profession, it doesn't matter if you did it or the person next to you did it. If anybody in law enforcement across the country, they never say that particular individual officer did X, Y, and Z. They say law enforcement, and they get it badly. But again, there's a lot of them out there that justify sometimes that treatment, and I don't see that stopping unless you change society, because you can fire, I don't know, let's say there's 1 million law enforcement officers across this country. If you fired every single one of them, you're still going to draw from the same pool that you've been drawn from. So yeah, you're going to replace the old and bring in the new of the same type of people. So yeah, but
I don't have a problem with them enforcing the law. I think my problem, well, I know my problem comes in when you try to discipline the people. There's a difference in enforcing the law and disciplining, potential suspects.
okay.
That's where I have the problem.
Okay. So in that case, they would be going way beyond their scope of what they're supposed to do or what they're allowed to do. So yeah, that definitely makes a difference. And I've seen it in the negative aspect, and I've seen it in the positive aspect. So I've seen officers go way beyond the call of duty and way over, to help people, to do all these different things. I've seen that. But I've also seen the opposite, where, you want to say, why do you act that way? And it's not even all white people. I've seen it with some of the black officers. Remember, I told you there's those samples out there as well, right? So they do have that. But the industry or the profession knows it happens, right? They know it. They see tests, polls, whatever. They know these things happen. So a lot of them have these implicit bias trainings to say, hey, if you do this, this, and this, or you believe this, this, and this, you might have an implicit bias. Or the training that I went to, they asked us, we was in there, and I think it might have been like 4 black officers, right? And yeah, 4 black officers, probably 25, white officers. And what they asked us about if we had any bad interactions with police. And if I said maybe 20 of us raised their hand, every single white officer that was in that room, when he asked them what was it about, they had did something stupid. Everybody's done something stupid in their life, right? They did something stupid, and basically the cop gave them a pass. Said, all right, boys will be boys, or, go along, go back to your house, or whatever. I'm talking about even as far as one person said they were shooting out lights in a building, right? Nothing happens. Every single one of the black officers, myself included, when we talked about our interaction, it was way more dramatic. Something as small as, I was picking up my younger sibling at a school, and they got talked greasy to, and forced off the property and all this other type stuff, or yanked up. Every one of us had a bad interaction with police officers, but with less of a offense, put it that way, right? So we know it happens. And I remember in that training, I think they asked them what they thought about the class beforehand. And a lot of them was mentioning, it's this leftist this, and, this socialist this and that, whatever. So automatically they have that in their head. And I don't know if it works, but automatically going in there, that's what they're thinking. So my question to you, do you think implicit bias training actually works?
No. Okay.
No,
Because
I don't think so. I think it has the ability, but
Okay,
it's
two
a
no's.
great
it's the ability,
concept.
but it doesn't. Right.
It's a great concept, and it's good to have that. But like you said, Brian, they already have a preconceived notion based off of how they've been taught, their environmental training, their own insecurities and racial bias.
Or previous encounters.
Yeah, I just saw a video. I just saw a video where a white man was being apprehended by white officers. He punched one officer, he threw the other officer to the ground, and he started chasing the other officer, right? So I'm watching this, and I'm like, wow, look at this. Eventually, they detained him. Then the next day, I see I see white officers detaining a black man because he had a water bottle. They thought it was a gun. Now, once again, they shot and killed him. The point being is that was implied bias, because when you think about, you see a black man, however they brought up or trained, they believe a black man is automatically has a gun, is trying to do something wrong, is a menace to society, is a stain on the neighborhood. So they come in with these preconceived notions, whereas the white man, he was basically smacking the cops around, chasing them, chasing the law enforcement.
I think I saw that. Wasn't it even like around the car?
Yeah, it was like, remember the old Benny Hill movie, the
Yes.
Benny Hill show? That's how it seemed like. You could have played the music. He was running. He was chasing law enforcement. Now we all know. Let's keep this a buck. This is unfiltered. We all know if that was a black man, it took 2 seconds before he was gunned down.
Done.
Where he wouldn't even have the chance to do any of that, the shenanigans.
Yeah.
So they come in with these preconceived notions because they've been taught this.
Tokyo told him that you hate him, you don't like him.
Go ahead. Sorry.
What?
That was I had
done. I just.
Oh, okay. So
I just saw that and I thought it was. I just.
So, Brian, I do have a question.
Okay.
About that. When the situation, it's a little off topic, but when that situation happens with law enforcement, say it happened in your department, and you see it, and you guys come to your meeting or whatever happens on the end, what is anything explained, or are they told to keep their mouth closed while internal affairs deals with it? How does that go?
As far as what, like, as if a person gets shot or something?
Paul just explained the contrast of how you handle black and handle white. The black guy, we're gonna beat him up, halfway kill him, or kill him.
So
the white guy, we're gonna let the white lady tell us what to do, curse us out, put her finger in our face,
right?
Tell us, we're not doing our job.
So every incident is different. All right. So remember, going back to what I said, when something happens in law enforcement, it doesn't matter what department, what state, whatever that happens. They say all law enforcement. So right. the problem is that when people see these things, or these things become available, you got to mention this: everybody's an individual, and how that was handled might have been handled differently from another person, somebody maybe different from somebody in a different shift, or a different precinct or a different department in the same state. So everything is different. So you kind of can't compare how things are happening with officers in one area or at this particular moment. We know, and even black officers, we've said it before amongst ourselves. So when we hear these things, we're like, oh, that must have been a black guy. Oh, that must have been a white guy. Because we know, we've seen when you look at the news and you look at all these incidents that's happening, you see all of these things, and it seems like when it's a black suspect, they have less tolerance when it comes to certain things.
Yeah.
So hold on a second. Yeah. So when you have the problem is, we see it. When you look at it from the outside, you can look at 1,000 police incidents across 1,000 different departments, and it always seems that the black suspect does not get the same amount of patience. They don't get the benefits of the doubt like some of the other white suspects or what have you. We've all seen it, and to say that it would be a lie if we sat there and said, well, no, that doesn't happen. But as far as how you would handle certain things, you can't, because everybody's an individual. I can only go by if I had 1,000 incidents that I handled and 1,000 incidents that the next person handled, we could do it perfectly every single time. But somebody down in Texas, somebody in North Dakota, somebody in Alabama, once they do it, it looks like everybody's doing the same way. But yeah, it's. I do think implicit bias works. The training works. Not enough. And the reasons why I would say not enough, just kind of what Paul said. You're going to always have those biases coming in, and it's going to trump whatever they try to tell you, because one, you're going to ignore the training anyway because you don't believe in it. But I think this is where I think it does work. When supervisors, well, I'm going to say does, it should work. When the supervisors get it, and as a supervisor, once you get that training, you should be able to recognize what goes on with the people that you're supervising. Now, the problem with that is, if you're the same as them, it ain't gonna matter. They're gonna defend you and back you up and all other type stuff too. So, yeah,
they gonna have the training, and then later on in their secret group chat, they gonna laugh, and they gonna talk racist. They gonna talk all that nonsense, in their little back channel group chats that is only private, only certain people have access to it.
Well, that has been proven. I
know.
So can't deny that because that has been proven. And wasn't it Wilmington? I'm trying to think. What it was in Wilmington. Yeah. It was in L.A. when the whole Rodney King thing, when he started pulling all those tapes, of the little private channels that they have. All that came out, and I'm sure that they're not the only one. Demetri, you got to unmute yourself. So now this is the commentary behind it. Supporters of this believe it helps officers recognize unconscious assumptions. That it does for those who just genuinely don't see it. Critics argue there's mixed evidence about whether training alone changes behavior without broader organizational reforms, supervision, and accountability. That's true as well. So this is a case where both are true, because you have to have all of that, or it's not going to be as effective as it should be. So now, just by listening to you guys, Demetri, you got to unmute yourself. Just looking into about what you guys were saying. My question is, why do public perceptions of policing differ so dramatically across communities? When I say communities, I'm talking about from the Black community, the Latino community, the Spanish community, the white community, the poor communities, affluent communities. Why does the perception of policing differ so dramatically?
Because police. Oh, go ahead, Marky.
Oh, I think because of the different racial classes, we're to a point now that we feel that when the black community calls to a police officer for whatever reason, it has to be multiple ones, and you have to come with a certain mindset. But because we're programmed to think that there are white collar crimes and black collar crimes. So you figure when you go there. It's like going into a football game and you're not juiced up, you're not ready to go. When you go to this, that's what it is. When you go to these black communities, you got to be juiced up, ready to go, because they're violent. These guys, they buck back at you. They run from you. You can't catch them. They throw things at you. You may get into a shootout. Whereas the white community, you feel like you can at least talk to them. You're going to get a rowdy woman sometime, or a guy who knows the law a little better than you, or may have some political friend somewhere. So you're not as juiced up when you go there, and you're not treating them the same.
Okay, let me give you two surveys, and then one was a Gallup survey, and the other one's a Pew Research. Right, a Gallup survey found that 56% of white adults expressed a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in police, compared with 19% of black adults. One of the largest racial gaps Gallup has measured for any major institution being policing, 56% to 19%. Now, the Pew Research found that 42% of white Americans had a lot of confidence in their local police department compared to 14% of black Americans. And I should have probably gave that out first, but yeah, that kind of goes back to the different communities feeling differently. And I know Paul wanted to say something about that. Maybe not. Okay. So, go ahead. I see you in there. Well, I'm going to say experiences with police often vary. Obviously, you're not coming through. Yeah, you know. All right. So anyway,
like Marky was saying.
Okay. Go ahead.
He was saying, when you get a call from a black neighbor, have to be in their mind is that it's
you're everything you said is kind of choppy. Send it in the message box. But what I was saying, experiences with police often vary by neighborhood, race, as you guys mentioned, social, economic status, and personal interactions. Everything's different, right? It varies. We have different lived experiences, which kind of shape the conclusions about some institutions. Like obviously, I don't know, you guys have had any negative interactions with the police. So if you have, you're more likely not to have confidence in the police department. And if you lived in a certain area that was maybe more higher in crime or maybe over policed more, you would have a more negative view of the police department versus somebody who, called the police in the past or had some incidents handled differently, like how we said about the implicit bias training. Like, all of them had police handle things way differently than what we did, right? And obviously none of us was criminals because we wouldn't have been cops at the time, right? So yeah, once you see that, you have no alternative but to, have those impressions of a police department. So yeah, I think that one was pretty easy. So let me ask you something, and we're going to wrap this up one here. Of 1, 2, 3, you three guys, which one of you has not had a negative interaction with a police officer? Dimitri?
Hey.
Yeah, which one of you have not had a negative interaction with a police officer? Okay. If you have, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I wonder if that's my connection. All right, you're not coming through. I guess you might have to put yours in the text box. So I can tell you about mine, and how many have I had? I think I've had 2. And the reason why I remember this. Anybody remember the year that Villanova beat Georgetown in the NCAA championship? Right, that was April 1st, 1985. So after the game, it was me, a friend of mine who lived in next city of Pleasantville, and my sister. After the game,
can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I was trying to say, well, you talking good. I'm going to try to tell the same.
Yeah, you're not coming through clearly enough. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, type it in the chat box, and I'll just relay it to everybody, whoever's listening. But yeah, so the two incidents, one I was talking about was 1985 when Villanova One just took down Georgetown, which was a huge upset. We was walking my friend to the bus stop, and it was after, I think it might have been after 11, 12. I don't know. I don't remember. But it was after we had a curfew in Atlantic City back then. And we was standing at the bus stop. I picked up a stick that was I think it was my mom's mop stick that she might have had outside. And I picked it up just as something to put in my hand, not for protection or anything like that. And we're standing at the bus stop. Like literally, we just standing at the bus stop waiting for his bus to pick up and go down to Pleasantville. And the police came up there, and we didn't think nothing of it because we weren't doing anything. Next thing you know, we're up against a fence, and I remember I'm looking at the I'm looking at the officers on my side, on my right side, but as I'm up against the fence, a wire fence, and my friend David was to the left and my sister was to the left. So all I remember him saying, he was like, "Yo, that's a girl," because obviously they must have, been a bit rough with her. I didn't see it because I was facing the right and they were to my left. And the guys that, of course, my cousin was playing in the Final Four that year. He played for St. John's, and obviously that name was famous when they ran our names and he heard the Glass last name. Was like, "Oh, you guys are related to Willie Glass?" I said, "Yes, my cousin, blah, blah, blah." So we got let off only because of that. But does a curfew violation warrant being, pushed up against a fence or being roughhoused up against a fence? Knowing you're at a bus stop leaving, because of where the bus was, is actually leaving the city. So, which makes even less sense to even bother somebody once you know they're leaving your jurisdiction, right? So we had that, but that didn't give me a negative perspective of the police. I can see why they would, like anybody else would, but it was one perspective I got where a police officer handled something really, really nice. And I said, you know what? I've become a police officer. That's going to be me, right? It was a white officer. So I do understand why people would have a different perspective, obviously, because that little implicit bias training we had clearly showed that they had a total different, interaction, even though what they were doing was way worse than the black officers in that thing. So Paul said he said he damn sure had some bad interactions. Anybody have any good interactions that maybe that would have said to give them a favorable view of the police? Not. I'm assuming that you have a favorable view of the police now. That's a big assumption, but hold that thought. Hold that thought. Remember that, because we're gonna go into when we talk about part 2 of this particular episode. I'll revisit that question, and I want you guys, because I'm gonna specifically ask you about that. But for those listeners, stay tuned for part 2 of this particular episode. And this episode is, if you're coming in late, is can we ever eliminate racial bias in law enforcement? So I want to thank you guys for actually tuning in, and I'm going to give a word of the day. The word of the day is bias. If you guys get the word bias for this particular episode in this particular month, then you have an opportunity to win prizes. So all you have to do is send all the words of the day to, or email it to unfiltered.psycho4081@gmail.com. And first come, first serve. You have the opportunity to win a prize or cash, depending on where you are. So don't expect real big cash. So, but thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Unfiltered with Psycho 4081. Big respect to our guests for keeping it real, and love to every listener rocking with us week after week. This conversation ain't over yet. Stay locked in for the next episode coming soon. Until next time, keep it unfiltered with Psycho 4081.